the divine eternal worlds. Everyone comes down here to earth with a great baggage of previous experiences. Padre Pio's words. 972. From this world, as long as we live here, it is impossible to escape. With thoughts, imagination, and yes, you can. But with the body we are tied to the base of the earth, like a chain. Therefore, we should take care of this world, because it is now the home of our life's pleasures. So to promote aspirations for economic prosperity is a very good direction. In the value system, living in accordance with the principles of culture, love, and work for the benefit of all angels, today's people. Then, it will only get better. 973. We have the right to be happy truly, not illusorily. Without a life of love, this is impossible. There is no love, there is sadness and sadness. Giving warmth, this is the most important quality of love. There is not enough warmth in the church, Padre Pio's words. 974. Only people who want authentic happiness and who already know something about spiritual life will love their soul. At first, however, through thinking, and then already through the University of Happiness, without thinking typically human. Higher indication. As can the intellect of a tender heart reaching further beyond the pulse of the human seed returns are always possible. He who has tasted this impenetrable taste bathed in time's bounty of sufferings, marked by critical points, wrapped in the postulates of desire, will not be deceived, will not be turned to nullification, but will find in the extraordinary novelty a master of self-reliance embracing in understanding the gigantic mystery of the world. 975. Turn off logical thinking, turn off the states of creation algorithms, reject patterns, belief impulses, and knowledge all off. And you will become like God, spontaneous, familiar, good like fragrant bread. 976. Use the colors of spontaneity. Don't think too much, let your soul intuition guide you. Even if it leads you into a corner, that's fine too. Accept humbly. 977. Not to think will still not be enough. If you think, pretend not to think. Dutifulness, caring and logic, calculating and so on every day break through faster than the divine in us experiences. 978. God does not think. He is thoughtless. He knows everything by design, because he is God. If he thought, he would have to combine things and could end up hurting us with his logic. 979. To become more like God, this is great work over mindlessness. To abide in the power of love, this is art over art. 980. Use thoughts, but as if you were not using them. Don't attach any importance to them. It's something along the lines of what the man from Tarsus said 2,000 years ago. Marry as if you didn't marry, buy as if you didn't buy, etc. Everything will change anyway when we land in heaven. There everything is beautiful, free, spontaneous, like in a fairy tale. 981. Thoughts appeared only in the cosmos, as an overlay on the soul to overshadow it. Intelligence is a feeling and compassionate soul. God helps the compassion of our feelings, but we don't feel it. 982. Atheistic civilizations in the cosmos are always searching, pondering, seeking happiness through their own ways. But they also influence civilizations that already recognize God. Their creative act, independent, has become the engine of progress and discovery of material life. But is this a good thing? 983. Evil in a temporary sense propels the universe toward liberation. The effects of evil cause deep reflections of liberation. However, it does not immediately work on everyone. 984. Cosmists will one day understand that they are the carriers of the original energy, whose name is freedom, independence, love, God. Then they will end the creation of material worlds and return everyone to the original heaven. No one will be condemned, because who else would they be condemned by? God has never condemned anyone. He was the first to give a hand of agreement with the angels. Us Padre Pio's words. 985. The most important thing is self-awareness. In fact, religious principles have nothing to do with the soul. Religions are no revelation. They are a little lie. There is pure politics and ideology in it to seize human resources. Religions are not about spiritual progress, but about beliefs and power over those beliefs. With the help of thought speculation, religion tries to trick people into self-realization and salvation, but on the condition that you get baptized and are a believer. Merchants. For centuries, free thinkers and atheists have been condemned by the church, even impaled, crucified, and burned at the stake. This is what religion looks like. Therefore, it is necessary to strive for love and universal consciousness, so that no ideology does not cause unjust persecution. Knowledge of the world, God, the soul, eternal love can be gained without religion. Everyone has consciousness, the soul within himself, so he will come to it himself without any problems. Reflection will lead him to it, like millions of years ago our ancestors. Jesus did not preach any religion. From his kind words about forgiveness, love of neighbor, an ideology was made, in the name of which people persecuted and killed. It's time to think deeper. Joyful colors. You are carried by the rush of caressing words, persistent gestures, and the hum of angelic hair. The gates were opened and the light of love feelings fell in palaces, gardens, groves, lakes, boats, calm waves. Singing smiles. Flashing billions of symbols chime with joyful colors. At each thought you change the form of the symbol that serves you. Your love crowned with grace and beauty, unceasing and vivid unknown springs are flowing. You don't know what a dream is. You don't know what pain is. It no longer exists. You only know love's mating 986. Rebellious thought is transcendent to every human action. It is rebellion which teaches to strive for cognition. Rebellion, asking questions about the cause of life. Rebellion exists only where there is a deficiency of knowledge. Besides, there is freedom of choice and the fun of life. 987. Stuck in us, we don't know why, is a huge ignorance. Ignorance about God, the soul, and the visible world. Where does this burden come from? The cause is difficult to discern. It was so long ago. I believe that it is not just our fault. When we clear our minds of perfunctory knowledge and learn true wisdom, we will gain greater knowledge of these matters. 988. On the one hand, we have bodies to match our egos, and on the other, we complain about them. If someone, God forbid, is disabled, blind, deaf, etc., or is just ugly, he complains about his body. He doesn't even want to admit it. He runs away from people. But in addition to these facts, however, he has quite different desires. He would like to be forever beautiful and young. 989. Kolka's life in the space proves that someone has dragged us into a dishonest game from which certain life problems arise. We are born in extremely difficult living conditions. Any woman who gives birth to a child can have problems. Padre Pio's words. 990. Mindlessness. You feel something, suddenly you don't know from where or why. You feel at the same time a whole bunch at once, without a specific thought. First you think with thoughtlessness, and then thoughtlessness wants to realize. What a long way from thoughtlessness to thought. Quantum ages. Or not. Depends on how the quantum agrees to it. It can be sometimes even in advance. Before thoughtlessness thinks. You already know. Who will comprehend it? How it happens? Although everything is born from inspiration, that is, from thoughtlessness, it jumps in on its own. You just have to open a crack in the soul and it begins. 991. The soul ignites with the fire of love when you touch it with a kind word, kindness, a smile, selflessness. When you shower her with this, she becomes a fragrant flower full of nectars that can be sipped endlessly. Everything else smothers her, suffocates her, dims her. It's worth paying attention to this and being careful how you apply words and gestures to others. Do you want nectar? Do you desire that reaction? You must first enchant others with the scent of goodness, and you will receive nectar for nectar. 992. Only a few manage to escape from this earth. The rest are pushed back, either back or to other planets in space. Only the wise with a good pure heart succeed. And neither the church with its catechism nor atheism will help, but own experience of defeat. Yes, failure opens eyes, like the death of a loved one. Only we ourselves, with an open mind and heart, can understand this and not give in to this luminous reality. which was specially arranged for the impotence of human consciousness, so that humanity can rejoice a little and shake with fear at the same time. And this is what they want. This reality is controlled with a sense of freedom. It is difficult, very difficult to gain knowledge about it. This is also their intention, to know nothing about how man was created. And in fact, no one knows anything. Even priests only have to believe because they know nothing, and they know nothing. Padre Pio's words. The Bible doesn't know, then they don't know either. Besides, so do other spiritual writings of other religions. Everything is made up, little inspired, manipulated by selfishness, time and light that ruthlessly puts us down. Almost no one from earth goes directly to heaven. Everyone wastes this life. Padre Pio's words. 993. Once it was all ready, and we lived unbelievably happily. We craved another heaven, imaginary, material, independent heavens. Well, we have the very problems of the galaxy. It's actually a kind of hell for us. God created heaven once and a certain number of his children, us angels, and so far, he has created nothing more. Padre Pio's words. We ourselves came out of heaven. Many of us are already returning back. It's not as if the cosmos and creatures are multiplying indefinitely. Souls are still the same. Bodies change and we get the impression that there are more and more of us. No, there is a fixed number of souls in the cosmos. We wander, die and wander again to purify ourselves and seek liberation, to ascend to eternal life. 994. Yes, you can be born again, but the soul is still the same. Multidimensionality also dies. Only pure love, that is, not delicious and satisfied only with oneself, allows everyone to return to the boundless heaven. 995. The greats of these cosmic worlds, although they know full well that they have long lost, express this universe by force. As soon as they created it, they were already heading for collapse. And this night, and during the day alike for this reason, will pound cosmic debris into the planets. Every day about 1 ton of micrometeorites fall from space to Earth. Once in a while, a huge rock debris happens, and then there is a major collision, a tragedy. In the next generations, large meteorites will hit. It will become dangerous. Padre Pio's words. This is the result of the very confusion of interests and hubris of the angels, the creators of this shrinking, due to lack of power world. It is necessary to escape from here as soon as possible. And there is only one way, selfless love, love for everyone and everything. 996. The soul is within us. We are it as a being, a spark of consciousness and feelings. To realize this reality, this is the greatest luxury. It is not easy to achieve it, because the creators of other civilizations have blocked this knowledge from us, so that we see only the body and the material world. The soul is forbidden. We have this from birth until death. It is necessary to fight this, to break the codes of the veils. Faith helps, but it is too weak, weaker than hope. The present shell, the body, blinds us to the soul. Padre Pio's words. 997. Changes in the world are apparent. There were already higher civilizations here and they disappeared. This world was not needed. Freedom created it, and hubris burned it with evil. 998. Jesus does not acknowledge this world. He refers to it as darkness, that it is ruled by the rulers of darkness. He proposes to abandon it. I am not from this world, he said. I would add, he came down here from heaven to help us understand where evil came from and how to abandon it for eternal life. 999. The pleasure of love makes us realize the divinity and eternity of the soul. We possess original longings for heavenly pleasures. The pleasure of playing the game of existence is the driving force to explore souls and the enormous heaven associated with them. 1000. The most important of all that surrounds us here is the soul living in our body. Whoever knows how to find it amidst the sea of human impressions is close to the goal. The shells that surround the soul are so opaque that it is sometimes difficult to distinguish what it is all about. But things nevertheless look quite simple. Search methods have been known for millions of years. You don't need anything new to start getting God. One simply has to sincerely want him. 1001. Fable. In a desolate patch of the world, where civilization was undergoing unpleasant vicissitudes, only a handful of highly intelligent and beautiful beings already lived. However, they remembered moments when their lives were trouble-free and comfortable. The fairy world was destroyed by constant revolutions in the struggle for power. The only cheer that motivated them to continue living were their memories, dreams, and longings. They persisted for a long time in their shattered homeland and did not know what to think, how to create an ideal world again. No one to this fairy tale came to their aid. They were on their own. This situation taught them one thing: to take advantage of mistakes. They built a mighty edifice and named it Hope for a Better Fairy Tale. In it they taught how to erect palaces of happiness in their own minds, so that no one would ever again deprive them of comfort, convenience, and love. Lectures were held every day, and everyone benefited from them for free. Just one word: Thou hast given me breath and canst take it from me. Thou hast given me a heart as deep as bottomless wells. Thou hast given me all elements to make happen. What has happened? Just one breath from you, Lord, and the pains and false hopes will be extinguished. How shall I speak to you, Lord? You who are the oldest, most powerful. You who are the very energy of goodness. How shall I address you? Lord, dispel my pale words, however. Let me wait, because I only have hope in you, although I am deaf and have gone blind into the world. I wait for your one word, for a sign for your attention and insight. 1002. Today, the knowledge of what the purpose of life is and how to really achieve it has been lost, especially in the younger generation. Everyone is living, satisfying their needs, on top of which everyone blames and judges each other. Such guilt is not pure. It is a contrivance of ignorance. Ignorance blames us and weakens us. If someone doesn't learn spelling, on a dictation he will feel stress and insecurity. This is not the fault of others naturally, but a personal failure to learn. In order to pass through life easily and lightly, it is necessary to know about the soul, the meaning of love for the whole world. To divinize it and transfer this universe to heaven, from where, after all, it came out. After the end of the world, this will happen. The particles after it, God will take to heaven, changing their material structure to spiritual matter. 1003. You really need to be inwardly educated, experienced, and initiated in the knowledge of the soul to make the words. The letter kills and the spirit brings life. Understand. A man who has no concept of the spirit cannot exercise power, because he will do more evil than good. A man who has not graduated from the spiritual university can afford any deviation. So he can afford elementary conscious errors. One of them is attachment to the function performed. This is a very serious and widespread crime, which even goes as far as someone else's blood. A spiritual man does not attach importance to the office. He wants only to be a servant of others. He wants to give the best he has. 1004. King Spirit. But where to look for him? This king doesn't have to wear a crown at all. The crown is inside him, invisible. Only some people can see it. 1005. A sign that a person is developing is his variety of cognition and bringing subtlety and warmth into his life. A man sensitive to spiritual depths will come to know more and more over time. Man, on the other hand, who clings to the law, the letter, and material objects, will notice nothing of the spirit. Spirit is primarily power, not words. An apprehensive person is unable to notice the subtleties of the word, let alone the spirit. He only understands and recognizes the word when someone criticizes it. He would then cry out for that person to treat him gently. One can change so much in own life to be positive, light, and beautiful. 1006. If the soul is forgotten, then the maw of materiality will swallow everyone and set back even material development. Not to mention the squandering of the good, that is the culture of cultures. And culture is the basic condition for peace. Culture can be destroyed by ethically uncontrolled whims and selfish desires. And if one destroys culture, disregards personal good qualities, one devastates the state. Knowledge of the soul is the highest culture, because this knowledge reveals the soul as selfless love. growth begins with personal culture. Padre Pio's words. 1007. When we can be smart, it's all right. But if we want to become only politicians, only scientists, only writers, etc., it already becomes dangerous for us. First love and respect, then the rest. First the idea of love, spiritual warmth, because they help civilization and the environment, and then professionalism. But one that takes into account love of neighbor. This is the principle if we want to build a true state of peace, a state of love and tolerance. 1008. Life is not about not taking advantage of the world. After all, from the world we have not yet been uprooted, so it is necessary to benefit. But the more one gets to know it, the more one should bestow love on it. In this way one also helps others. We are people of this earth. Material laws bind us. We cannot escape them, so bread is also necessary. And this should not be questioned. It is only a matter of knowing how to use the goods of this earth logically and practically, with a sense of ethics, so that man, as much as possible, protects himself and the environment. 1009. If one combines science with mysticism, this fusion will result in new positive thinking, and from positive thinking own social and political health improves. Fewer mistakes are then made, because a thinking person, having acquired a wide range of scientific, humanistic and mystical knowledge, knows perfectly well that love forgives, and with this he covers up many mistakes, taking their burden on himself, changing their potential, which in turn prompts a deeper analysis of attitudes. Love justifies, does not fight, that it does not judge, does not condemn, but lifts spirits and encourages a broader view of reality, offering good solutions for improvement. So with this alone, it wings everyone who encounters it. Love heals human resources. 1010. Fairy tale. Did you know that in the fairy tale world time does not exist? Yes, it doesn't exist. The more efficient own thinking, the broader own imagination, time shrinks and eventually disappears. The mechanism of time exists only in the physical world. In the psyche and in the world of fairy tale pleasures, it has no raison d'etre. Everything that enchants and delights transcends time. Pulsations of feelings have no inhibitory structures. Wherever they desire to be, they can achieve it instantly. They experience in an instant what they want. It is enough to arouse them in your heart. Therefore, go into yourself, into your sensations, and you will overcome all limits. In contact with another person, which similarly pulsates, heaven becomes the creation of love fractals, the filling of which causes time to dissolve. Such a short lecture in the field of feelings and how they can change reality was given by a grasshopper. For those for whom jumping in the meadows began to be boring and wanted something more. The lecture was attended by a large audience. In his final phrase he said, "Even in the meadow, time is subject to change. For each planet means a different pace. By jumping into own inner world of feelings and thoughts, one breaks away from time and gravity." This goes without saying. After the short lecture was over, the room erupted in a storm of applause, wing flapping and shouts. Long live friendship. Long live affection and warmth. Long live love and its wonderful fairy tale world. Cross-section of nature desiccated, twisted thanksgivings shown in elementary errors get entangled in disputes, duly burdening the bones of reliable truth. Dances of deformed spells tickle the palates of developed characters, and it seems useless to teach impeccable beauty during strikes of desire. Biological force operates a circuit of quarrelsome tensions, changing potentials of calm into psychic storms. The total shapes explained by the fruits of research stretch the sympathetic knowledge that the remembrance is proportional to the honorable goals exceeding indifference. Therefore, thinking grooves the body in obedience to the ever-running energy through which the answers of conscience can be discussed. 1011. When pondering the soul, it is necessary to not forget that we are in the galaxy not by the will of God. This is not the heaven he offered us, which is deteriorating and causing suffering. Galaxies are our idea. They were supposed to be wonderful. We were supposed to live in them like in heaven. This is not the case. Something has gone wrong. The Church calls this problem original sin, but it was no sin at all. There was a project of new heavens beyond the original cosmos. Well, and we already know what it smells like. Only longings for what was and was lost remained. We went into it, and then it was just quarrels and resentments. Fortunately, we earthlings have realized why this is so. We are returning to the true home of happiness and the true pleasures of life. Heaven is beautiful, it must be seen. Padre Pio's words, 1012. The soul is the maker of our thinking. If a man had water in his head instead of brains, he would still think, the words of Padre Pio. But soul consciousness does not mean just thinking. It can think, but it doesn't have to. It depends on what conditions it is in, and what kind of body it has adjusted. In galaxies, everyone thinks because everyone dies. The soul also has feelings and mainly uses them. It reacts to other pleasant feelings, like a pupil to light. As long as it wanders around the universes, it will be dependent on their fate. The great philosopher Jesus knew this. Descending from heaven to various earths, including ours, he knew that he would have to overcome this world to bring out the hidden truth. Galaxies are not a divine realm, although divine energy was used to create them. In the end, the cosmos, angels, and civilizations generated misfortunes. There is some love, but generally everything ends in disaster, i.e. disease and death. Salvation. Exactly that. Escape from the cosmos. It is really difficult to do this, because at times it resembles the real paradise. And he is only a substitute, an imperfect reflection of the original heaven created by God. You have to be a bit of a divine madman to get heaven. Padre Pio's words, 1013. The efficacy of striving for the most beautiful colors of happiness is to see and experience the happy beauty, which, however, is beyond the realm of the senses and their perception. The body senses it, but is not yet able to take up such a call to happiness. It won't be able to produce as much pleasure as the soul has in it. A promising future. 1014. The optimization of the soul is wonderful. She produces happiness not only from herself, but arouses volcanoes in other souls. Her nourishment is experiencing other people's and her own sensations on the basis of scientific mystical knowledge. Mystical knowledge. It is not only the rapture of the mind and heart, it is the experience of delight as it is, to the bottom. 1015. Sometimes a reminder of a former delight of the spirit is enough to arouse another immediately. The soul is amazing. Teresa the Great of Avila had this often. She described this mystical phenomenon. 1016. Mystical knowledge is the highest possible knowledge, reaching further than the structures of the material cosmos and the various developmental forms of life living in it. So-called aliens. They are not walking ideals at all. Aliens are none other than angels, what once came out of heaven, establishing their own. Now it is difficult for them to find directions. Humans are also aliens. They live in a huge galaxy of about 200 billion sun-stars. We too are the same angels. We try to live happily here, but it comes out most in dreams and songs. However, we need to return to the original heaven, the real happiness, where it expresses in everything live. Paradise is missing on the planets. The fullness is in the hereafter. 1017. Any way you look at it, Christianity is a Jewish worldview concept. It is untrue that salvation did not come before. This is a lie of the sects that forcibly ruled over a peaceful people. Thousands of years of slavism far surpasses the concepts of the now traditional salvation. It far surpasses the adulterated Bible. There are even Slavic Vedas. Slavs, their signs, symbols were exterminated until they were forgotten. This was done by the church itself. Jesus, although he was a Jew by flesh, nevertheless preached Slavic ideas. He was an angelic universal soul. But the Christian sect, as it was called in the beginning, changed all the words of the great philosopher Jesus. They deceived everyone. Let the church admit it. It will do itself a good service. However, it is still necessary to defend the church and justify it, like any sinner. It is necessary to use its good ideas that are still in it for own salvation. Padre Pio told me to defend the church, so I defend it too and help it to reform itself. Harmony of the universe, harmony of the universe. Rhythm pounding out happy lines. Flower of sounds and cosmic waves. Solar wind. Brightness determining the conditions of existence. Role on which goodness is cultivated. May cosmos, fragrant with fresh air, earth of mankind. All lands scattered in the sky. I love your being in power streams, harmony, the borders of which we do not know. Can you hear our greetings? Space vast, can you see our longings? Solar system, can you hear my cry? Spiral galaxy, do you know people's names? Where does your scent end up? Where do your eyes go? What else do you want to tell me? Harmony of the universe. 1018. To reach for great joys, the smallest possible efforts and endeavors of the soul are needed, so as not to stain it with selfishness. The soul is trusting, open, able to see everything and believe everything, effortlessly. 1019. Sincere spontaneity and joy of life provides the knowledge of own eternal soul. 1020. People are former angels on their way back to heaven, and they are different in this life, but nevertheless, they are strong and consistent in their quest to know beauty. Beauty is the beginning of the spirit. 1021. Let me say something more about extraterrestrial civilizations. Most of them we can judge as defined in tradition, that they are satanic. But in fact they are angelic. They meant well when they left the original heavens to create heavens other, as if second galaxies. Then it happened as it happened. We limited spiritual possibilities, and each of us became alienated from all that is real and eternal. It's difficult to comprehend because we don't remember anything. A river of forgetfulness from birth to death. And just before we were born in the flesh, we were shown how this world is beautiful and worth being born into. We were fooled like little trusting children. Well, and we are born here, where there are a lot of problems that are not present in heaven. Outside heaven, sheer hardship, stench, and ruin. Now we know this. Well, we have to live here until our DNA is gone. The choice was ours. 1022. With too much materialistic commitment, the spirit is at odds. Material consciousness in the face of the true potentials of the eternal aspirations of cosmic civilizations does not bring people closer to the true substance of life. However, the concept of a perfect state is possible, but on the condition that Francis of Assisi sits in office. They must be people whose joy will be to be selfless for others. Love. When such people sit in office, they will begin to lecture everyone invisibly about the economy of love, which always brings only benefits and no losses. Even when something goes wrong, it will still turn into a benefit. Love and selflessness can do it. So far we can only dream of such a system of state. 1023. Education and human reason are important. But there is a small problem. In human terms, materialistic knowledge is one lung, and the other should be the knowledge of the tender heart, the spiritual reactor, or soul. Something can come out of such a fusion. Understanding why we live here, and what we were promised in exchange for this life, and who promised it to us, and who wants us to always be born in space, and never teleported to heaven itself. The fusion of materialism with spirit gives rise to the recognition of all things. But let's not forget, matter is the product of a fallen spirit, and someday mental materialism will be degraded to show us something much better. 1024. The church is trying to show divinity, and in the meantime she has become entangled and fallen herself. Padre Pio's words. In an invisible way, it succumbed to the exchange of materialism. He has become its servant. Is there a way out of this? There is, of course. It is necessary to return to the true God, the one, the most wonderful God, who says that he is not from the world of galaxies, where economics, business, and material goods rule. The natural laws of this world are ruled by angels, which designed this world. We are also among them. We must uproot our souls from greedy materialism and rise to warm love, above business. Yes, having even 5 cars, possessions, one can remain free and loving. It is enough to know how to share and not to attach importance to material treasures. which, after all, will disappear anyway, as our body disappears. There existed such kings who possessed vast possessions, and yet they were close to God, Padre Pio's words. Rather, the church should be modest in the material sphere and rich spiritually. 1025. The pure sensation of pleasure is everything that causes love. 1026. If you arouse the mind to spiritual contacts with the soul, everything will comfort you. You don't have to perform any miracles. The deepest joy can give you only the soul. She alone makes your body and the senses within it alive and joyful. 1027. So far, no one is so smart as to answer where their thoughts arise and how. Where do they come from? The reactor of thought itself is actually unconscious, pure spontaneity. This is beautiful, because we do not know what we will think about in a moment. This element is also our heaven, but hardly noticeable for now. Someday we will discover God, the creator of ourself. We will see him. 1028. The soul can't do otherwise. It has to love everyone equally, with the same devotion, but for everyone differently, to make it wonderful and interesting. It doesn't have to be with everyone at once. No. She will slowly meet each soul one by one with the soul that attracts her the most. Yes, a soul can have communication with everyone at once, but for what purpose? Padre Pio's words. What matters is this moment of eternity, just as on earth. 1029. Homosexuality is a selfish habit of the body, fashion. The soul loves selflessly, lightly and beautifully. It does not tangle with the erogenous innervations of the body. It is something completely different. The body is too strong against the soul and succumbs. The body is a code obscuring the essence of pleasure, obscuring the essence of life. All beauty happens only outside the human body. 1030. Here on earth, there is everything you need to recreate the blurred sectors of love within you. And that's all it takes. If we accomplish this, we can stand eye to eye with the worst angel of the cosmos, and nothing will be able to do to us. Padre Pio's words. It is enough to simply be good and nothing more. Love surpasses all knowledge and densities, which will degrade anyway like everything created by the angels after separation from the source God. The desire for goodness and love for all restores the once lost personal sectors of love in the soul. 1031. Let's not flinch from asking for help. Truly intermediaries exist and help. There is a Facebook from God's side. Since here we help each other and count on a good word or other help. It is the same with the heavenly world. If one turns on the spiritual communicator, he will chat with various liberated beings who can direct anyone to the best path for him. Full of wonderful adventures, but rarely are those from heaven visible to the eye. Mostly they help with good inspirations, but we can say no to them. And then there is the problem of civilization, backwardness, twisted ideologies, wrong views of reality, atheism, homosexuality, and other matters. Adapted to a mind highly filled with knowledge by means of complete ignorance, material darkness. 1032. God, I love you above all, but I love you where you are. And where are you? Everywhere my healed and renewed consciousness and what my soul and body like reaches. So I have you at hand at all times, and I feed off of your subtle and delicate existence, in every form that exists, of which you are the sole and ultimate cause. Even if she can sometimes be filtered by angels serving too much ego, I am above them. I love you above all. Ma love Almighty, arriving immediately at my call of longings and various needs. God, you are reliable in fulfilling all my desires. You know well what desires I have. I know you camouflage life, but these desires of mine are, after all, your desires, because you created them so that I can use them at will. In heaven we have desires, wants, feelings. Padre Pio's words. 1033. External love awakens internal love. In fact, the internal is external love. The soul expresses itself externally to show other angels its treasures with which it has been endowed. As in heaven, so on earth. Reflection, a pure pattern from heaven. Love is the outward inner activity of the soul, i.e., holding hands, hugging, kissing, being together, rejoicing, playing. Loving reciprocally arouses the membranes of the soul, and ignites it to love God and all of heaven even more. In the cosmos, its forms are like steel and lead. Therefore, even out of love we sometimes mutilate ourselves. Only the saints are holy in these matters. Swept away by excess, swept away by this excess, even impermanent shapes I want to praise. Nothing can be lost. The miracle has clearly triumphed without any violence. Heaven has prevailed. A smoldering dress of delight embraces me with a fire from which it is impossible to escape. Words taken out of your mouth intensify the heart to tears of happiness. In the word, the great secret of a free life swept away by this excess. I continue to search for waves that are sincere and high. Searching, I hold that shape, the sound of which contains a future even happier, and that it knows no suffering. The song of my soul will henceforth glorify this land. Hidden are sources, for few known. Only the one at the top will say, I already feel it. I already comprehend it, I love. 1034, Fable. In the great sky country lives a society with high vibrations of feelings. They present themselves with a wonderful power, and that is the atmosphere of love. Through love, they have achieved absolute freedom and independence, including independence from the fairy god. They do not accept under any circumstances any control. They have developed a system free of orders and prohibitions. The vibration of love they live by emerges such a high culture of being that they do not need to be taught by anyone. They have become creators themselves. They achieve everything through the sensitive structure of the soul. Love opens up boundless possibilities for them to enjoy life. They can visit the most attractive lands without fees or obligations. Deficiencies in every area have long since been pushed away. They all have perfect, warm, tolerant consciousness and painless bodies. Sexual energy lifts them to different gates of delight each time, and they enter them to experience the heaven of union, the blending of worlds, the merging of energies into knots of divine rapture. No adverse emotions have access to them. Ah, how wonderful it is to live in a fairy tale land, where there is not the slightest trouble and love is as light as a feather, giving a chance for the highest vibrations of happiness. How can one not love the ideal, dream world, boasting the most beautiful qualities of expression? It is necessary to admit that love in a fairy tale can take care of itself. Or is it already a vestibule of heaven? 1035. The soul does not like ignorance, no inhibitions, limitations. The soul always feels free and joyful. The body crushes it a little because it can't fly with it. But that's okay. Everything will change when we leave this prison that is the cosmos. Seemingly beautiful, but dangerous, restricting movement. The freedom to fly. Life on earth is a kolkhoz, Padre Pio's words. 1036. If a society wants to live in stability and peace, it must start dealing with spiritual matters. Otherwise, it will grow advocates of intolerance, who will not want to pursue harmony. As much as they would like it, involvement only in the world of material heaven will not allow them to do so. That's why spiritual culture, the culture of a good heart, is so important. She opens souls to others, making joy and peace in the state. Careerism, partisanship, and much more are good for big egos that have crimes in the background. 1037. The soul is first and foremost a dreamer, fantasizing constantly in search of happiness and pleasure. And no one will forbid or take this away from her. She thinks about it day and night, every second of her existence. Take a close look at her, and you will see that this is true. Everything you do in life, the subtext of it is this one phenomenon: joy, pleasure, delight. If you didn't feel this purpose in yourself, you wouldn't want anything. Because the soul wants to experience, to feel tension, satisfaction, excitement of various kinds, and at the same time wants peace. Emotions of goodness, feelings of love, are its eternal life. But in the cosmos of fallen angels, where we live, it is easy to get lost and fall into the hell of money. And they begin to conquer our drum of the once pure soul. When the soul gets dirty, it stops fantasizing heavenly. It fantasizes around its own friends and catching up with the body. It has gone from being an angel to a donkey, a bag of money and a mental combination. 1038. There is no truth without truth. There is no truth next to truth. Truth is simply truth. Nature is truth, and all that is supernatural is truth. If someone would like to make up his mind and say that he knows the truth, he is rather far from the truth. No one knows the truth except the truth. Our truth is based only on empiricism and largely on faith. Literally. For even scientific experiments, the elementary ones, are not fully explained and will not be explained. Reactions and correlations are known, but why exactly it all happens the way it does, no one has definitively stated. Humanity cannot know the whole truth. These are the cosmic assumptions, which are not our original laws, imposed from the top of the galaxy. 1039. So it is with the truth that He is the Almighty, whether one likes it or not. God is the fullness. He is all goodness, all power, strength, might, wisdom, love. In Him, there is not the slightest shadow of imperfection. Actually, it is impossible to define in human words what God is like. God is the mother of the most tender, the father of the best, the lover and lover of the most tender. Words and concepts only get in the way. But without doing good and subtle love, nothing can even come close to God. Truth and the knowledge of it are connected with the inner life, with the development of talents, spiritual gifts, with the change of the form of conduct to a better and better one. 1040. Goodness has it that there is nothing impossible in its substance. Goodness is not limited by anything, not by memory, not by concept, not by perception, not by inspiration, not even by beauty. Goodness is free. Goodness is the life of the soul, for it alone can multiply every feeling and thought into a warm, soothing experience. Inner experience is always inclined to create a harmonious and sensitive world. Through spiritual acts, we easily adapt to the world around us and try to find values and traces of God in it. If one seeks knowledge without relying on the soul, one will not find it. Because each of us is a soul and then a body. Knowledge is supposed to lead you to happiness and overcome misfortunes, including death. That is its task. Life enhancement is the glorification of your life path, which leads in only one direction to eternity. 1041. In spontaneity, which is unique, filled with the perfections of the soul, there is rest. But it is neither concrete nor abstract. Impression is always above everything. Feeling gives life, feeling towards everything. It is the bearer of desires and heavenly longings. 1042. Progress is about experiencing life with the highest purpose, meaning, and perfect pleasure. In the cosmos, however, there is a problem with this. The cosmos is a lost paradise. Heaven with God is in a completely different cosmos, created by Him alone. Our universe is our creation, fallen angels. Flow of freedom. From all over the world, agreements of affection are flowing phenomena of the present appear in our consciousness as the pressure of freedom. The elements of reflection are meant to nourish the fragmented energy of the deep relationships of life forms. Happiness is a luxury, love a comfort. 1043. Frequent thinking about own soul consciousness brings out the amazing energies of life. After practicing this style of playing with the soul for a long time, a person completely stops thinking in purely human categories. He begins to feel similarly to the angels in heaven. He walks in this world, and as if with his feet he does not touch the earth. And we know what love actually is nothing but fun, good humor, passion of heaven, full comfort of cognition, an eternal dance, a ball of happy emotions. 1044. Solving new tasks is then optimal when one settles first into the stillness and silence, the intuition of the soul. It is necessary to sincerely reach into the ministrations of wisdom. She never fails, although the consequences may be different, because others do not necessarily want to understand it, or are not yet able to. But it doesn't matter who or what you are arguing about. What matters is whether you are patient and understanding. Wisdom has just such a quality. Find an excuse for everyone, even for God, Padre Pio's words. 1045. The soul in this world does not want an economic system based on deals, on dishonest money, on exploitation. Therefore, Jesus, the great thinker, will say, "Do not treasure for yourselves treasures on earth, where rust and moth spoil and where thieves dig and steal, But treasure for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither rust spoils nor moth rolls, and where thieves do not dig or steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart is also. A created economic system that does not follow the requirements of the spirit exposes the human environment to decline. It is necessary to always do what pleases love, not what is unreliable and evil. 1046. The more we plunge into intolerance, when we close the borders of families and countries, the more forcefully evil emotion will assist us in this work. We should, in our thought operations, experientially, empirically, formulate such convictions and complete such knowledge of life, so as not to be drawn into the general character of evil. Therefore, the accumulated cultural goods must be verified in the light of life and death, in the light of hope and the final destiny. All of us, different civilizations in the cosmos as well. As creatures, we are heading to heaven. Here is the key to peace and prosperity of any temporary state. 1047. Although there may be many rivers in the sea, they will still become one. Although there may be many fallacies, one truth will overthrow them all. When the sun appears, the darkness is not so deep, and even disappears. How to make the sun always shine for the soul? Faith, hope, love. 1048. God will begin to shape our lives for the better, once we are willing to make such a request to Him consciously. It is necessary to talk to Him in such a way, as one talks to a beloved person, in power to do everything for us. 1049. Always the most beautiful are those shapes that cannot be seen with earthly eyes. Just a moment more and we will see them. We will even touch them. 1050. Loose conversations won't quite give what we expect and long for. However, they can contribute to a good mood, and this is already something positive at the stage of civilization and discovery. In the earthly realm of desires, however, one has to start somewhere. The human pleasure of dialogue can trigger an explosion of higher desires, shrouded in the light of noble activity. Heaven, after all, is a pleasant play with life forms. Heaven has something of the earth, Padre Pio's words. The cosmos was created by the angels on the model of the original heaven. Such was the remembered code of creation from the patterns of heaven. But the cosmic heaven was spoiled by fights and quarrels. That's why Jesus came to tell about it and encourage all angels, people, also other cosmic races, to return to the eternal palaces created by God. Therefore, nothing must be rejected from what was created here, even mistakenly. This is our done strange work over billions of years. To this day we still participate in it, as long as we are mentally glued to this kind of matter atoms of betrayal. Wanted well, but it came out as it did. Only God creates perfect things, without suffering and death. 1051. You have to be crafty not to be manipulated by pseudo-culture, pseudo-behavior. Insincerity can always eventually be deciphered, and she will eventually fall. Everyone knows this. 1052. There are many things I don't understand, but I write because it helps me comprehend life, the cosmos, and eternal heaven. Maybe someone doesn't like it and has a different opinion. I understand, but I am me, and I don't fully comprehend others either, although I should. In fact, it was Padre Pio who pushed me to write. Although I love everything and everyone, I don't understand a lot of philosophical and scientific issues. In my writings, I only draw the contours, as far as I have been given to understand them in my own way. Everyone, and any religion, any civil right, have the right in the name of freedom to make conjectures and have their own opinion on various subjects outside the Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, Sumerian, Mayan Bible. Therefore, I also exercise this right. God is incredibly tolerant and merciful towards me and everyone. Recently, Pope Francis said that God is young. Sister Faustina Kowalska, who proclaimed God's great mercy, now comes to mind. Another thing is that her writings were 90% falsified because that was the will of her superiors. Just as the writings of St. John Bosco, founder of the world's first vocational schools for spiritually and materially neglected youth, were falsified. As I mentioned earlier, I am not a dog person, and I dedicate my writings to the Mother of Jesus. Perhaps they will be of use to someone. Padre Pio told me that even if I helped one soul, it would be an eternal success. Maybe at least one will succeed. That's what I'm working on. 1053. Everything is as it is, and as it is not. Beautiful. What different possibilities for joy. The soul is equipped with temporarily trapped in a world of difficulty. Gifts of delusion. Touch of your heart is the top of my heart. I fell in love with this touch of heart. Again the wind sings, spirit and spring of love distributes gifts of solace. So don't throw a stone if you remember the mornings of sighs and fields and forests and joyful mists. Play even harder, let your heart's music dance in the sunshine. Of the purest caresses, colorful stars strike us beside angels, love send greetings and blessings. New horizons burn with life. What wonders above wonders. 1054. People criticize everything, but the mistake they make is in not criticizing themselves, their own imperfections. Critics cannot be relied upon. They are generally unfriendly feelings that do not seek love. If it happened and we were caused injustice, let us take a good example. Jesus, the great thinker. Once he forgave, he never went back to it again. Padre Pio's words. 1055. Although lamps illuminate the house, the blind man lives in darkness. Although spontaneity is all-embracing and close at hand, seeing life as it is remains unacknowledged. The fault lies not in us, but in the construction of our mind. It is not our product, mind versus soul, they are separate entities. The problem has arisen since we left the original heaven and plunged into the material galaxies. It would be necessary to get rid of them from our lives, but this is not easy. There must first be an understanding of why they came into existence and where the spiritual error occurred. 1056. It's important to strengthen oneself spiritually and seek the truth about oneself. It turns out that life is not at all so long that one can search and not find. We have the right to do so. But on the other hand, we lengthen our path to great spiritual joys unnecessarily. Our life, like the cosmos, is bound to come to an end one day. The angels will get wise and pissed off. They will not want to live in a material heaven that harms. They will crave the ideal. And the ideal is with God. When civilizations reach humility and spiritual reason, they will not want to develop in the world of material galaxies. The cosmos is too contingent. Then Daddy Mommy God will come and sweep the cosmos after his children. But for now, it's not worth too much experimentation. Life is fleeting and short. It's better to focus on what gives eternal life. That is, on goodness and love. Life is too short to experiment endlessly. Padre Pio's words. 1057. Life on earth is a great subtle play on the tissues of consciousness and the tissues of the senses. The senses express consciousness in seeing, touching, tasting, hearing, and smelling. This is the core of what we have as a body on the soul. It is enough to paralyze the consciousness and the body with love, and we are almost in heaven. 1058. The soul is a very loving substance. It does not know how to get angry, conflict, and make something unimportant. The soul considers the world as contact centers for joy and pleasure. It should see nothing else in the world. Heaven is filled to the brim with just that. 1059. Fable. Magic words: taste, intimacy, infinity, beauty, serenity, cognition. Such are the aspects of the joys of life that are conjured up by all of us from the higher worlds of consciousness. The wizards enter with their minds deeper and deeper until the lower entities are forgotten. An infinite unification continues in their hearts, emanating behind each search for taste, a different profile of perception, a different level of consciousness. Over and over again, new lands of joy and attraction are discovered. The highways of time open up new delightful tales for them, relying on sensations and delights. Only those destined for such journeys meet on them, destined through acceptance of new knowledge based on love. There, one experiences individually, but delight flows through feeling consciousness with others. The fabulous madmen conquer all they desire because they have the courage to go beyond the beaten path and reach for the unknown. Armor of translation. Aggressive energies in the movements of nerve of events are attended by dead atoms of noble goodness, Analogies of forces are sometimes moved by one spirit, but other parameters bind health and wisdom, analyzing the rises and reigns of saturation relationships in solitary diseases. It is difficult to wait for something authentically better. To see a peaceful evening of modern rhythms of eternity in a traditional wisdom magazine is difficult. Everyone is able to revolve around his own self and is incapable of thinking with reluctance about his selfish contentment, about his bullish hope. The light world develops without knowing the gains of love. That's why miserable consciousnesses huddle in the dailies of darkness and look less and less at the poems of heaven cleaven, clouds of disconnected lives from the open space of truth homing in on the lightning bolts of death. Let's hope that's not the case. 1060. It is glorious to constantly remember that time, space, all natural existence, as and that improved by human technology, ultimately belongs to God. So we can dispose of everything, but with the knowledge that we do so, with the permission of a higher freedom. The spirit of Saint Francis of Assisi remembers creation in a divine context. There is not a single reason not to associate everything with God. If the angels created this world and posited even hellish planets for the exiles, however, this energy of life also comes straight from God. There is no other alternative. Freedom and opportunities were given by God. The angels do what they want with it. I can even do lack of love evil. All the time God justifies that He gave us freedom. Magnificent this God. Find justification and for God Padre Pio's words. 1061. It's good to build a new order in your soul all the time. Rearrange the furniture in it to make it interesting, smart, and more romantic. 1062. If our constitution is love for God and man, and then only after that all the good human laws are included in it, then we can dream of prosperity, honesty, high-class humanism, science, and progress. The social environment needs tolerance and love, more than we think, more than we even suppose. On the walls of Parliament, the words should be inscribed, "Why love is not loved." Then we can talk about the state of good law. 1063. Love is so strange that when you love someone in particular, it's like you love everything in the world at the same time. Is it like that? Isn't there some kind of conflict of events here? Or is it just the way it is supposed to be? The ideal of love caresses the whole world of souls selflessly, without jealousy. How does God do it? You are to be for everyone, and you are to love everyone equally. Padre Pio's words. 1064. Love can be expressed differently, but it is experienced with the same thing, the mental heart. 1065. Hologram is one way of seeing. The matter is even more complex. The atom, its nucleus is empty, it turns out. This is where the real theories begin. Surely the Bible is deceiving. It is a very primitive work. Archaic, not for these times. Today it would be necessary to rewrite something. But is it possible? Dogmatism paralyzes everyone, nothing yen silence. But in this silence, the great angel of understanding awakens. A sword is awakening that will cut off the illusion of the confused and bewildered by power and wealth, clergy and rulers of states, bankers, into the eternal present. Over all the hills of disappointment we escape into the eternal present. We escape, or rather return to the meals of happy world. The long gown of knowledge entwines our legs freely, and our lips light up from love. Like an open sky, a heart full of feelings. Smile and hug, don't defend hiding under the tree of our lives. 1066. There is human love, full of human imagination, and the divine, which few people have access to. But both are really the same thing. On the human level we love with our feelings and body, on the divine level the same, but much more powerful and perfect. Human love is incomplete because it quickly flies away and is easily discouraged. Divine heavenly body and feelings is always ready and hot to exchange the tensions of love. It is never disappointed. In the cosmos, even if a man had 100 women and women 100 men at his disposal, he will not be satisfied. Padre Pio's words. On the other side, there is no longer this problem. Everyone belongs to each other without limitation, and everyone is happy. There is no jealousy there either. Jesus gained this knowledge of the hereafter, so he communicated In heaven one does not marry, nor does one get married, which, for the planets, especially ours, comes as a surprise. After all, marriages were invented by aliens, not God. Padre Pio's words. It is a purely galactic product. The Church uses this human institution to the max. Everyone should remind themselves what ideas rule in heaven. After all, once each of us was there before losing him. 1067. The truth is also that the chemistry of the human body based on sensory and intellectual sensations, but it does not full expression to inner sensations and visions. So it would be necessary to bring out the alchemy, or transformation of low emotions into higher ones. The recovery of the heavenly body already has unlimited possibilities. Of course, this body does not have blood and bones, nor muscles in the human sense. It is a perfect structure surrounding the soul. The alchemists were not concerned with transforming lead into gold. They were concerned with the perfection of cognition and sensation of a higher world than the earthly one. The transformation of the energy of evil into a higher good. Physical alchemists are dummies. Some books use this very dummy. Alchemy is higher sensations. Padre Pio mentioned this alchemy. He even used the word. 1068. The soul functions quite differently from the human mind. She does not need to analyze anything, overthink, combine left and right. The mind does the opposite. It loops itself and others. The more we use the mind, the more we get hammered. That's what chemistry is all about. Alchemy says something different. The less you generate energy in this world, you save it for the path back to heaven. But the mind abhors emptiness. That's how it was designed by aliens. And we have a problem. We hardly know the soul at all, but with our thoughts we pierce the world far and wide. This binds us somewhat to the world. That's why this galactic purgatory lasts almost indefinitely. Padre Pio's words. When will it end? When we stop straining our minds and focus more strength and time on the pleasures of the soul. Just don't let anyone worry about having to abandon the pleasures of the body. Don't. The soul has more senses in it than the body, more eroticism than the human body. Human eroticism is a reflection of the conceptless soul. If someone loves sexually, he loves with the soul at the same time. Church law has changed everything. It has hypocritically persecuted sensuality for centuries, and therefore also the soul. Mind and eroticism are two different things. The mind complicates. Love soothes, calms, and cuddles. The mind is linked to the brain, which is terribly inefficient. Neither memory nor knowledge. The soul knows all it can know. The mind disappears when we die. We then recover everything, unless one has to be born again in a kolkhoz of planets and civilizations. He should avoid that. Whoever becomes good and tolerant, whoever loves authentically, will avoid another suffering reincarnation. 1069. I once asked Padre Pio about certain people who were outwardly not very good. He said, they are already in heaven. And others who were calm, with a huge heart, he said, they are still a little short of entering heaven. But this does not apply to everyone. I knew Bronia, a woman with a huge heart praying. Her husband left her, in old age returned. She went immediately after death to heaven. Sister of Brother Ludwig, 1070. Human love is based on desire, but spiritual love is similarly based. If there were no desire, no wanting for anything, there would be no life. Even on heavy hellish planets founded by aliens, angels, they exist. The soul is one big desire. One can desire silence, meditation. One can desire music, goods, conversation, love. Happiness is wanting and persisting in it until one curiosity supersedes another. Such love is the current of life. However, sensations in the cosmos should be approached with caution. Here is the problem with greed. We are drawn into material wealth, and then the soul, consciousness, the mind mainly, are bound to wealth. So also the exploitation of others to keep this wealth for themselves. In world's material heavens, there are huge limitations. You can always hurt someone, whether you have something or nothing. But wealth is a greater risk. Hence, we should learn to love gently and subtly, to be understanding, tolerant and unwavering, if we still live in the Milky Way. Because after that it's gone. All are full of love and wealth at our fingertips. This is how the heaven in the galaxies differs from the original heaven, on the other side of heavier, dying matter. 1071. I once asked Padre Pio about Brezhnev. He said, "He will never see heaven." Another time I asked about great ideologues, revolutionaries, such as Lenin. He said, "They will stay here. They will suffer until now, until people forget their writings and deeds." 1072. If you direct your thoughts into excessive business and working endlessly beyond your strength, you will be a busy and sad man, because not everything will work out for you, and you will no longer find time for joy and spiritual spontaneity. But if you turn your thoughts inward, to the soul unlimited in anything, you will discover worlds in which you can immediately live, and they will be worlds perfect for you, and you will go outside with them. 1073. Our life was not born in the galaxies at all. Before we came out of heaven, we stayed in heaven for a very long time. Freedom and curiosity prompted us to look behind the veil, and private heavens, impermanent galaxies, were created. 1074. All angels, including us once there, today here in the flesh, do not know everything. No angel in heaven knows the whole truth and will never know it. They do not embrace what God knows. On the other hand, they have freedom attuned to the perception of desires and cognition. 1075. We can be eternally happy and loving without limits. It is necessary to strive for this, otherwise there will be fruitless death after death. 1076. Sympathy for the good expresses in progress, spiritual creation, culture, art, etc. But we easily succumb to atheism or religious fanaticism. This is the dangerous game of polarization. When we do this, we smile in the direction of unrest. As I said, it is very hard to break through with even the smallest spark of divinity in this world, because you are immediately rejected. This is how the planet is controlled. The chemical and genetic laws created in our body very much inhibit spiritual development. Let's try to pierce them with transcendental knowledge and love. 1077. The world under the cover of secrets, ignorance, human joy and gadgets, scientific projects is very controlled. But not by humans exclusively, mainly by angels with ill-formed characters, living in other cosmic systems. We refer to them popularly dark power. This is not just a power, but specific beings who have taken various planets, including ours, under their dominion. Few people are aware of this. I don't want to say anymore that they even influence birth and our death. Jesus, a great thinker, also spoke about this. However, as we stick with God, it's already harder for them to control us. The intelligence of the dark power, for now, rejects God because its rulers are busy with civilizations and profits. However, it is enough to strive for inner perfection, gentleness, love, and it is already doing quite well. The world without the spirit of love is struggling, acquiring almost by force all the goods of the globe. Intellectual goods likewise. One is born from this fight: privateness defense, and as defense is aggression. We should not conform to the dark power, but to the light power. Higher happiness and selfless love flow only from a true purified spirit. That is, one that knows how to love everyone equally, like a mother loves her children equally. 1078. One cannot continue to live in ignorance and blame everything on the devil, the angel, our companion, with whom we came out of heaven. It is dishonesty to him if we tempt ourselves to intolerance. The taint on the soul is quite extensive. If we do not take up the knowledge of how to overcome ourselves in order to become love itself towards others, we will continue to create a civilization full of conflict and struggle. The decision is up to us. Let's not complain later that politicians behave badly, that doctors take bribes, that prosecutors are too harsh, that plant directors are corrupt, that there is, after all, a multitude of organized crime groups, etc. Where does all this come from? This is what ignorance of human and spiritual values causes. Too narrow knowledge in schools about the development of human character. Which school today talks about ideals and putting them into practice? None. so we have the world as we mentally create for ourselves. However, this is worth changing if we want to have an efficient social system without conflicts. 1079. Religions. Bad. Well, yes, but what in return? For a dog to pull out a bone, you have to throw him another one. Otherwise he'll bite, Padre Pio's words. First of all, knowledge and return to the roots. To the original God, not Jewish or any other. 1080. It is necessary for us to return to the primordial beginning. There is nothing left to do but to persistently seek information about life. But the primordial beginning began in heaven. This must be taken into account. Science is an ideal tool for straightening the paths that have been crooked for centuries. This information we already have a lot of. Empirical knowledge has already overturned many hermetic religious views. And it will do so still. But science won't do everything either. Own soul has to be taken in hand, to know where it comes from and where it goes. Much can already be learned about it. Heaven has set up its channels of information. But it is not simple. The aliens control any manifestation of the spirit. They want us to live exclusively in the cosmos. Heaven they reject. Conviction and resistance are losing them, and us by the way. We must not allow ourselves to be manipulated, to destroy our growth through false beliefs and deadly materialism. God is love. Everyone has forgotten this, especially the religions. Feelings most powerful. From consciousness to flowers and from humanity to the growth of goodness, under the onslaught of feelings and instructions of life, the power of love resounds. Forest quiet reflections grow in us, and above contacts, unusual happiness comes out of humanity, which heart multiplies perspectives. How many measures have measured infinity? How many curtains were torn to see the shapes of harmony? How many longings have been poured out? And yet no one has yet defined what the passion of doing good it is. We are united by the influence of common causes. But, of all things, the smallest flame of love can accomplish the most desired unity, will sooner or later consume us completely. Then we will find ourselves on glowing individuals close to each other in love. 1081. Inner transformation must be a kind of inner learning. Almost always the disputed point between believers and non-believers is the different view of the world. But at the same time, the common denominator of both, which is the expectation of a decisive victory of good over evil, does not lose its luster. Almost everyone says out loud their no to evil, but so what? The lack of a process of continuous improvement of own spiritual qualifications is the reason that human weakness and impotence intensify. What can help believers and non-believers? Love and tolerance above views relationship of consciousness. This is doable. But one must first step down. God no one on earth has ever seen and will never see, Padre Pio's words. So one and the other should let go a little, and it will be fine. Destroy someone's life for one stubborn sentence. That's not right. 1082. Typical education claims that it will change the world, teach it responsibility, sensitivity, avoidance of evil. Unfortunately, the rapid changes in the world show what kind of processes reality is undergoing. Science and education do not sufficiently change people's attitudes. Organizational forms, scientific and technical progress, do not always correspond to the inner needs of man. The needs are much deeper and greater. One could say that current science even prevents the renewal and expansion of spiritual qualifications. Churches, moreover, are doing the same thing. They instill in people that their future is all about education and prosperity. Unfortunately, this assumption is based on an erroneous thesis. Science guarantees nothing and can promise nothing, as moreover does any field. Instead, with the help of education, the deeper layers of the human personality should be found. Then one can speak of true education. Without a righteous character, science has little meaning. What's the use of learning if someone can destroy a lot with one move? Knowledge of the soul is the most important, and then the rest, peacefully organized. The soul is love and understanding, forgiveness, hugging, shaking hands in agreement. The mind is struggle and rebellion.